Welcome to English Podcasts, videos, podcasts and quizzes.
Visit our website at english-podcast.com
And subscribe to our YouTube channel for more learning content and free giveaways.
Hi Sue.
Hi Chris.
Sue, I've just been thinking about stuff. I've been looking at some podcasts recently, and I'd just like to know, because I know you're a bit of an avid podcast listener, aren't you?
I am indeed.
How many podcasts do you listen to a week?
Oh, how many do I listen to in a day?
Really?
Yeah, I probably listen to 3 or 4 podcasts in a day.
Can you name any of them?
I can actually. A lot of them on the BBC. I like a thing called Word of Mouth, which is always about learning words. It's quite interesting. I listen to, I'm going to give a plug now to, I think, the most popular podcast in the UK. It's called The Rest is Politics.
Ah, that's with Alistair Campbell?
And Rory Stewart.
Rory Stewart, yeah.
Yeah, I listen to them.
Is it a political podcast?
It is.
Right.
It is.
So it's not interesting?
It's interesting to me. And this is going to be the key to my podcasts.
Okay.
If they interest me, the
Right.
topic interests me. And at the moment, I listen every single day to the BBC Rugby podcast. Because at the moment there's the World Cup on for rugby. I listen every single day. So it interests me. If it was a football podcast, I'd never listen to it. I'm not interested.
Right. So can you tell me then, on that sort of tone, what makes a good podcast for you?
Well, interest, as I've said. And the people who are...
So interest being the subject?
The subject, the subject. And the people who are speaking, if they have experience in what they're talking about.
Okay.
So, for example, on The Rest is Politics, the main speakers, they've been everywhere, done everything. For the rugby people, they've played, they've got insights.
So, do you have to like the person?
Not necessarily, but I think I warm to the people.
Right.
Because if they're giving me an insight into something, if they're from experience, I like it when they're quite amusing as well. I like it when they're quite surprising. That's what I like.
And do you ever get to listen to, sort of inadvertently, if you like, do you get to listen to podcasts that you didn't set out to listen to?
Very often.
In some way, yeah?
Very often.
And where do you find your podcasts?
Well, I'm afraid I do use the BBC Sounds.
Why are you afraid?
Because I'm plugging them.
Okay.
But
I think BBC Sounds is a good app.
It's so varied. It's so varied. And sometimes I mistype a word, which happens quite a lot with me, and I end up with saying, oh, that's interesting. I'll just something about Chinese emperors in the 16th century, and I go, oh yeah, that could be interesting. Just click on it.
Yeah.
So I do sometimes listen to things just by pure chance.
And it's funny because I'm similar, because when I look for podcasts, I generally look for a certain thing for whatever reason. Either I've seen it on X, the X Twitter thing, or I've seen something about it on maybe a preview on BBC. And very often what happens is I will listen to one podcast and then I get led into other ones. There's so much interesting stuff, and I quite like some of the podcasts that I wouldn't normally listen to. Like, for example, the other day I listened, I was quite cynical about it. It was about conspiracy theories, and in fact it wasn't the conspiracy theories that interested me, but it was what made them believe in these conspiracy theories. And in fact it wasn't trying to push a certain theory, but they were talking about how do conspiracy theories appeal to people. And it's a really interesting podcast, and I find just lots and lots so interesting.
Absolutely crazy. And I'm just thinking now, for example, if I'm doing some DIY around the house, a bit of painting or whatever, in the old days I'd maybe put some music on or whatever it was, Radio 1 or something, and now I choose to listen to a podcast. And if I'm interested in one particular thing, and then it runs on to the next one, I think, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It runs on to the next one. I listen to podcasts, it's my choice of background sound.
And what's the best podcast episode that you've listened to recently?
Oh, goodness me, you put me on the spot here.
Okay, well, I'll tell you mine.
Yeah, you tell me. Good, I'm sure.
And it's quite surprising. And when I talk to people about this, they're quite surprised. And in fact, it's a podcast. It talks about are dogs good for us? And on this podcast, there was a really surprising thing that it never occurred to me. And it was they were using dogs in schools to help children read. How about that?
And how were they doing that?
That's what everybody asked, because it seems really strange that a dog could help children read.
Yeah.
But in fact, when you look at the logic of it, it's quite good. What they do is they help these children by there's a dog that comes to the school. It's not a pit bull or a Rottweiler or whatever, but it's a friendly dog that comes in and just sort of is there with the kids. The kids stroke it or whatever, and the kids read to the dog.
Oh no!
And what they found was that, in fact, what the children developed was confidence, because the dog was non-judgmental. When they read to their parents or their peers or their teachers, there was always a little bit of stress with these kids, and they were totally freed up by reading to a dog.
That is lovely.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Lovely.
And that was through a podcast.
That's lovely.
Yeah?
That's lovely. And in fact, I just remembered one of my. This is, you're going to say this is crazy. On the BBC, by chance, I think I typed in the wrong thing, and it came up with, Tony Bellows is angry.
Who is Tony Bellows?
Well, he was a world champion boxer from Liverpool. He's got quite a strong accent, and he's a kind of angry guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
what's he angry about?
Oh, everything and anything.
Right.
But he interviews people about their anger, why they're angry. Now, I, as you know me very well, I am not an angry person, not at all. I'm pretty easygoing, but I'm always I was intrigued about why people are angry about literally nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so he interviews quite well-known people, and I just listened to every single podcast. He interviewed Wayne Rooney, who was known for being pretty quick to be angry. I was fascinated. Then he interviewed Gary Lineker, who's angry about nothing.
Yeah.
And it was...
Well, he's quite angry about the government.
Yeah, that's right. But it was... And again, that was just something that intrigued me.
Yeah.
Like with the dogs. And that's what's great about podcasts. So many things surprise you.
Absolutely. So, what makes a good podcast, according to Susan, and maybe myself, is its interest, first of all, then maybe the personality, and afterwards it's being a little bit curious to find out new stuff, learning stuff.
New stuff. And
excellent.
I'm going to say to you, Chris, what about learning English podcasts?
Where could you do that?
Well, I think we are pretty close to the subject, but why do people listen to language learning podcasts?
You're asking me the question?
I'm asking you, yeah. I'll put you on the spot. Why do people want to listen to a podcast to learn a language?
I guess it may be another way of looking at learning languages. They're looking for ideas, maybe they're looking for tips, maybe they're looking for learning hacks, etc. And it could be just purely listening to English as well. That's my opinion.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, I
maybe
agree.
we could ask people.
Yes, yeah. But it's true, I think people listen to us because we have maybe interesting topics, we can be quite amusing, but I think we do have experience. I think we do give insights into learning tips, but also we just general topics that we talk about. And podcasts. And we have natural, authentic English.
Thank you very much, Susan. Looking forward to... In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to interview some people and ask them about this question that you asked. Why do they listen to English podcasts? But in fact, most of the people that I find listen to English, they listen to, and I'll give it a plug because it is good, BBC 6 Minute English.
Yes.
And a lot of people listen to this. One, because it's bite-sized, it's manageable, and two, it's very, very interesting as well.
Yes.
They have some interesting subjects.
Yeah. But I have to say, I agree with you, but BBC 6-minute English is very good for a certain level,
Yeah.
but I find it a little bit too scripted,
Okay.
where we are not scripted.
Okay. You'll notice the use of but there. In English, but normally means that everything you've said before is untrue. And there you go. On that note, we'll be bringing some more podcasts with people who are listening to podcasts in English. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you enjoyed our content.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel
And follow us on Facebook and Instagram at english-podcasts.com.